Hare Krishna. Jai Jai Shri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. We continue reading from Caitanya Caritamrita Adi Leela chapter 8. We are on text 15. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Daya Karaha Vichara Karite Chitte Pave Chamatkar. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. If you are indeed interested in logic and argument, kindly apply it to the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If you do so, you will find it to be strikingly wonderful. So if we really like logic, we like to understand things, we should try to understand the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments in this connection that people in general, in their narrow-minded conception of life, create many different types of humanitarian activities. But the humanitarian activities inaugurated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are different. So does it mean that we shouldn't follow these humanitarian activities? You know, there are so many people fighting for so many rights, for human rights, for animal rights, for so many, for maybe people who are suffering in a particular situation, in a particular country, particular race. But we should try to understand what Lord Chaitanya has given us. Why is it different? Because all these other rights that we are fighting for, they're all based on the body. Once the body is finished, then the soul is in another body. So how are we helping the soul? Sure, today we are fighting for something, but then the soul in the next life, he's taken on another body. So Lord Chaitanya is called the greatest humanitarian activities. Why? Because he's giving us love of Krishna. He's eternally helping us, getting so that we don't need to take another birth again, don't need another material body. For logicians who want to accept only that which is proven through logic and argument, it is a fact that without logic and reason, there can be no question of accepting the absolute truth. Unfortunately, when such logicians take to this path without the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they remain on the platform of logic and argument and do not advance in spiritual life. However, if one is intelligent enough to apply his arguments and logic to the subtle understanding of the fundamental spiritual substance, he will be able to know that a poor fund of knowledge established on the basis of material logic cannot help one understand the absolute truth, which is beyond the reach of imperfect senses. So we want to understand everything by logic and reasoning. You know, our mind, we try to reason with everything. That's how we approach everything here in the material world. Similarly, when we are approaching the absolute truth, we are taking the same process. But what happens is that our mind is material after all. And it is limited because it's material, it's limited. So how can we approach the Supreme Lord who is spiritual and unlimited with our material mind? It's not going to work. Our senses are imperfect. Our eyes, we are so confident on what we see, but we can't even see the bacteria, the millions of bacteria that are flying around us. Our hearing, we are so confident, no, I heard it myself. But many times we hear wrong. Our touch, you know, if we close our eyes like the blind man, we close our eyes and try to touch something, we probably might get it right, but we probably might get it wrong too. So our senses are imperfect. How can we try to understand? So similarly, our mind is imperfect. How many times our mind must have taken us for a ride, you know? At least I can speak about myself. I made a fool of myself following my mind. I was completely wrong, or created such a big thing when there was barely anything there. So If we try to approach the absolute truth in this way, we will never be able to understand him. And that's the reason we approach the absolute truth in the parampara, accepting the mercy of the Supreme Lord. If we can approach Krishna by appreciating the mercy Lord Chaitanya is giving us, then we will be able to understand the absolute truth. It is Lord Chaitanya's mercy that we are able to even chant the holy name. We are able to hear about Krishna. Otherwise, who are we? What qualification do we have, What background do we have? What uh, how many sins we have committed, and then how are we able to even do this? This is all the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So, the Mahabharata therefore says, Achintya Kalo Ye Bhava Na Tam Starkena Yojaye. Mahabharata Bhishma Parva 522. How can that which is beyond the imagination or sensory speculation of mundane creatures be approached simply by logic? Krishna, he's completely spiritual. How can we approach him with our material logic, with our material mind, with our material senses? It's not possible because the mind is material, so it will just remain in the material box. It can't come out into the spiritual. Logic and argument are very poor in spiritual strength and always imperfect when applied to spiritual understanding. So how can we know about the spirit, absolute truth? We hear, Shruti. That's the reason it's so important to hear. We hear from the devotees. Hearing is the first step, is the first process of devotional service, to hear about the Supreme Lord, to hear about the absolute truth from Bhagavatam, from Bhagavad Gita, hear from the devotees who are coming in the parampara. By putting forward mundane logic, one frequently comes to the wrong conclusion regarding the absolute truth. And as a result of such a conclusion, one may fall down to accept a body like that of a jackal. So why should we take such a great risk? Our time in this body is very limited. So why not hear from the devotees who already know the absolute truth? Why should we try to imagine what is the absolute truth? And the imagination is going to be just an imagination. How can we accept imagination to be the absolute truth? Imagination is just, a product of the mind. It's not based in reality. So if we want to hear the reality, if we want to understand the reality, the absolute truth, we have to hear about him from the devotees. Despite all this, those who are actually inquisitive to understand the philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through logic and argument are welcome. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami addresses them. Please put Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy to your crucial test. And if you're actually a logician, you will come to the right conclusion that there is no personality more merciful than Lord Chaitanya. So we can try to see, as we read along the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, we can see that he's so compassionate. Never has Krishna been so compassionate as he is when he came as Lord Chaitanya. He's freely giving Krishna prema to anyone, everyone, even to the animals of the Jharkhand forest, the tigers, the deer. He's giving it to everyone, not considering anything. Let the logicians compare all the results of other humanitarian work with the merciful activities of Lord Chaitanya. If their judgment is impartial, they will understand that no other humanitarian activities can surpass those of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So if we call ourselves logicians, if we call ourselves that Nyaya, we following the Nyaya, then if we actually try to understand the activities of Lord Chaitanya, we will be able to see that he is so compassionate. He is beyond the mundane material humanitarian, because he's directly bringing us out of this material world. It's like when we have an itch, so somebody helps us itch, but somebody else helps us to cure the itch. So the curing may be painful, but he's curing us once for all. So then he is greater. Similarly, Lord Chaitanya, he's bringing us out of this material world. He's not simply applying, giving us some aid to help us continue to remain in the material world, but he's bringing us out of the material world into the spiritual world. Everyone is engaged in humanitarian. Everyone is engaged in humanitarian activities on the basis of the body. But from the Bhagavad Gita 2.18, we can understand Antavata ime deha nitya shyoktaha sharirinaha. The material body is ultimately subject to destruction, whereas the spirit soul is eternal. So no matter how much we take care of the body, no matter how much we do for someone on the bodily platform, one day we have to give up that body. And we have to take up another body because the soul cannot be without a body. And that next body could be a material body or it could be a spiritual body. So the soul, it's not that after I get liberated, I'm dead. I don't exist anymore. No, the soul continues to exist. We are eternal. That's the meaning of spiritual. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philanthropic activities are performed in connection with the eternal soul. However one tries to benefit the body, it will be destroyed, and one will have to accept another body according to his present activities. So no matter how much we do for someone on the bodily platform, that benefit that we are giving to them is only till the time they are there in that particular body. But how do we help them in their next body? They could be suffering even worse than they are now. We don't know. We really don't know where each of us is going. So how are we actually helping them? We can help them only when we can connect them to Krishna, when we can tell them, hey, you're not the body, you are the spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna. Now, does it mean if someone is suffering materially, we should not help them? No, sure, we should help them. Help them, but also tell them about Krishna. Also tell them about the true identity. If one does not therefore understand the science of transmigration, but considers the body to be all in all, his intelligence is not very advanced. If we think, okay, now I'm this body, and after I die, I cease to exist, then we are being called not very intelligent. We have to understand that the soul is spiritual, so it is eternal, and we are going to give up this body at one time or another. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, without neglecting the necessities of the body, imparted spiritual advancement to purify the existential condition of humanity. So we are in the body. We have to accept it. So we cannot neglect. I might say, okay, I'm the soul, so I'm going to stop eating. I'm not the body. No, we can't. We are in the body after all. So we have to take care of the body too. The body has its necessities of eating, sleeping, mating, defending, but everything in regulation. Understanding I am the spirit soul. This is what Lord Chaitanya is giving us. Therefore, if a logician makes his judgment impartially, you will surely find that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Mahavadanyaya Avatar, the most magnanimous incarnation. He is even more magnanimous than Lord Krishna himself. Why? Why are we saying that Lord Chaitanya is more magnanimous than Krishna? Why? Because Lord Krishna demanded that one surrender unto him. But he did not distribute love of Godhead as magnanimously as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna first says, you surrender to me. That's what in Bhagavad Gita, he's telling Arjuna, Sarva dharmam parityagya mam ekam sharanam vraja ham tvam sarva papebhyo moksheshami masucha. He's saying, first you surrender to me, then I will take care of you. I will free you from all sinful reactions. I will free you from fear. Don't fear. But first you surrender. Sarva dharma parityaga. What does Lord Chaitanya do? He does not demand any surrender. He's simply freely giving. He's saying, take love of Krishna. Krishna didn't do that. Krishna says, you surrender to me, then I will give you my. But Lord Chaitanya is saying, here, take it simply. Anyone who wants it, please take it. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami offers Lord Chaitanya his respectful obeisances with the words Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gora Tvishe Namaha. Lord Krishna simply gave the Bhagavad Gita by which one can understand Lord Krishna as he is. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is also Krishna himself, gave people love of Krishna without discrimination. In Bhagavad Gita, we can understand the position of Krishna. We can understand that I'm not the body, I'm the soul, and that I have to understand, I have to surrender to Krishna. But what does Lord Chaitanya do? He is giving us the love of Krishna. He's saying, simply chant Hare Krishna and take this Krishna prema. He's drowning the entire universe in Krishna prema. That's why he's called Mahavadanyaya, the most magnanimous. Srila Rupa Goswami, one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, calls him most magnanimous. Because when Krishna came as himself as Krishna also, he did not exhibit such magnanimity. It's Krishna himself. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself. So we can see how kind Krishna is, how compassionate he is, how loving he is, that for our benefit, he knows we are Kalyug people. He knows we are not going to be able to do any austerity, penance. We don't have long lives. Our minds are disturbed. We don't have anything much. What is he doing? You simply chant Hare Krishna and you can get this love of Krishna. We just need a little bit of faith, just with a little faith. If we can accept this chanting, we can get the highest, the most valuable. So we continue to hear and chant, on the order of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Is that okay?
Yes.
Let's stop here.
This verse, this
Yes.
is like one of the important verses according to Sri Gauranga Das Prabhu. In his Caitanya Ratnamala, he has highlighted this one and he has written in the short that apply your logic to the Lord's mercy. That, like as what we have read, but in a short to remember always, that we should apply our logic to the Lord's mercy, not Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. We should apply our logic.
Yeah, very good. Because we're always trying to apply a logic to so many things. Why this happened, how, what, we are trying to understand so many things. If we can try to understand the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, then our life will be successful. This human birth that we have been given will be successful. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Shri Caitanya Caritamrita ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you for listening and joining in.